Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Associate Professor Dr. Azam bin Osman and fellow teachers. So today, Group 1 will be presenting and explaining Chapter 4, Principles of Islamic Educational Administration from the book authored by Ali Muhammad Jubran Saleh entitled Educational Administration and Islamic Perspective. Before we start, I would like to introduce the members of Group 1. The group leader, Brother Muhammad Azwan bin Muslim. Next, Sister Madiyah Hayati binti Abdul Rahman. Next, Sister Mislina binti Ahmad. Sister Nurul Akmal binti Baharuddin. And lastly, Brother Hafsham Nur bin Abdul Hamid. The objectives of our presentation today are to explain the Islamic principles of educational administration, to explore and understand the utilization of Islamic principles as a framework in responding to current issues in educational management and leadership, and lastly, to discuss and explain the issues of schools' financial resources allocation. I am Hafsham Nur bin Abdul Hamid, and as the first presenter from Group 1, I will start my presentation with the introduction. Islamic principles in administration provide a more comprehensive system as they incorporate both moral and spiritual dimensions. These principles are universally applicable and important for the success of Muslims' organization. And in this discussion, we are going to focus on the administration in educational institutions, mainly schools. According to Muhammad Jodi Saleh and Nazifah Alwani Muhammad, since Islam is a comprehensive way of life, it treats the most minor and simple to detail and major issues in various aspects of human life and activities, including the administration of organization or institution. It addresses all mankind without distinction of race, region, language, or time. The principles of Islamic administration are derived from the Quran, which is the most fundamental source in Islam, Sharia, and the Sunnah, which is the second important source in Islam. The most crucial principles are knowledge, commanding good and forbidding bad, amanah, trust, justice, shura, consultation, brotherhood, moral and ethical behaviors, responsibility, trustworthiness, muhasabah, accountability, and motivation. Those are the values embody the administration in Islamic approach, which should be implemented by those who employed in any organization.
Principles of Islamic educational administration will be classified under four levels, namely personal trustworthiness, interpersonal relations, managerial, and organizational.
Characters the leader would need to be there in order to be a successful leader. 8 principles we'll discuss are: number 1, ta'ah, obedient to Allah, and ubudiyah, sense of servanthood to Allah. Number 2, tawakkul, trust in Allah. Number 3, muraqabah, supervision. 4, muhasabah, accountability. 5, akhlaq, moral and ethical behavior. 6, job competency. 7, amanah, responsibility. And 8, justice. Ta'ah, obedience to Allah, and ibudiyah, sense of servanthood to Allah. Obedience to Allah is one innermost feeling of His greatness, submission to His ordinance, adherence to His law, and devotion for His sake. As a matter of fact, the main aim of Muslim in this life is to attain Allah's pleasure, rather through obedience, and a Muslim educational administrator should look at his administrative duty as means to attain the pleasure of Allah. Thus, to achieve this aim, it is an obligation of the administrator to set a good example and be a good model. Muslims' life on earth must be completely to seek the pleasure of Allah, to devote to His worship in accordance to verse, I have only created jinn and men that they may serve me. Quran, Surah 51, verse 56. Tawakkul, trust, is the reliance of the heart on its confidence in Allah. A Muslim educational administrator will consciously make decisions to the best of his or her institution, guided by the framework of Islamic, and then put full trust in Allah, because Allah is the determinant of all things. Tawakkul comes after planning and determination to carry out all the set objectives. Then, when you have taken a decision, put the trust in Allah, for Allah loves those who put their trust in Him. Quran, Surah 3, verse 159. Number 3, muraqabah, supervision. The Almighty Allah is ever seeing, ever watching, and have His eyes on a person at all time and place. The Prophet clarified the meaning of divine supervision when he was asked about the meaning of ihsan. He said, ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you do not see Him, know that He sees you. Quranic verse, Allah ever watch over you, Surah 4, verse 1. Muslim existence is to obey the law of Allah, to work in accordance with this law, and to achieve excellence in discharging his duty. To discharge those duties excellently, the Muslim must put in a lot of effort. At a personal level, muraqabah gives one the feeling of self-confidence and the respect of others. Muraqabah also shaped them in accordance with the Islamic philosophy of life, which is to enjoin is good and forbid what is evil. Number 4, muhasabah, accountability. Accountability is a self-control that allows one to judge his or her deed. The feeling of accountability motivates the Muslim educational administrator to excel and do the right thing. The Quran makes it clear that everyone is responsible because Allah has honored him by the faculty of the intellect. Therefore, man is accountable for his deed. Allah says, then guard yourself against a day when one soul shall not avail another. Quran, Surah 2, verse 123. Therefore, educational administrator is fully responsible for his or her act. Number 5, akhlaq, moral and ethical behavior. One very important educational objective is to promote excellent akhlaq. The Prophet ﷺ profound concern about his companion and his compassion and kindness toward them not only consolidated his relation with them, but it encouraged them to perform their duty with devotion and self-sacrifice. The Quran said, "It is part of the mercy of Allah that you deal gently with them when you severe or harsh hurt they would have broken away from about you. So pass over their fault and ask for Allah forgiveness for them." Quran Surah 3 verse 159. Number 6, job competency. Diligence in works means steady effort and hard work which one put in one's duty so as to accomplish the task assigned. However, hard work or careful effort is unobtained without a wide range of knowledge and skills. A competent person is better than a diligence. This is because diligence is a subset of competence. The Prophet reinforced this when he said, "Allah loves it if any one of you does an action, he does it perfectly." Number 7, amanah responsibility. The first trust amanah that Allah has given humanity is that of Khalifa on earth. For he it is who has appointed you Khalifa over the earth, and has excelled some of you over other in rank, that he may try you in what he has best owned is upon you. Indeed, your Lord is swift in retribution, and he is certainly all forgiving, all compassion. Quran Surah 6, verse 165. Responsibility in Islam is the feeling of the administrator that he is responsible before people in the life and before Allah in hereafter. Number 8, adl, justice. Justice means things are in their proper places. Ethnic origin, religion, position, and wealth are not a basis for discrimination. This principle justice is important for any educational administrator, because it enables him to deal fairly with the staff and workers in his or her institution. Its importance is evident from the Quran, where Allah urges the believers to be just. Be just, that is neck the pity and fear Allah. Quran Surah 5 verse 8. As conclusion, all the basic principles of personal trustworthiness are based on the guidance of Quran and Hadith, which is the guide to the life of Muslim.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and salam sejahtera to Associate Professor Dr. Azamir Osman and all of my friends. I am Ms. Linda Binti Ahmad. I will continue the discussion regarding the interpersonal relations principles. Under this topic, we will discuss the first one is concept of interpersonal relation. Number 2, sub-item in interpersonal relation. Number 3, evidence from Al-Quran and Hadith Prophet Muhammad SAW. And number 4, the importance of the principles. Now, we go through to the introduction. An interpersonal relationship is a social connection or affiliation between two or more people. According to Ali M. Gibran, interpersonal relation contains 3 principles. Number 1, brotherhood and human relationship. Number 2, equality. Number 3, commanding what is good and forbidding what is evil. Now we go to the first principle under the interpersonal relationship. It is brotherhood and human relationship. In Islamic principles, brotherhood equals human relations. Definition of brotherhood is an association or community of people linked by a common interest, religion, or trait. Human relations means relations between people, particularly the treatment of people in a professional context. Muslim as one unity, characterized by mutual respect, freedom, and exchange of gratitude. And Islam is a way of life. The objective of brotherhood is create a healthy environment. The brotherhood and human relationships is exemplified by the Prophet Muhammad SAW and followed by Khulafa ar-Rashidin. The importance of brotherhood and human relationships are: number 1, strengthen the solidarity; number 2, making good friends; number 3, to be protected and protecting one another; and number 4, institution can achieve the goal properly. Here the evidence from Al-Quran and Hadith. From Al-Quran, Surah Hujurat verses 10, Allah said, "The believers are but a single brotherhood." And Hadith narrated by Al-Bukhari, Kitab Al-Adab, Volume 8, Chapter 36, page 80, "The solidarity and relation of the believer to another believer is like the building of bricks and pillars which strengthen each other." Now we look at second pillars is equality. The definition: equality means that all are fairness in Sharia, no difference between the principal, teachers, and other individuals of an institution with respect to the law. Equality is about ensuring that every individual has an equal opportunity to make the most of their life and talents. Islam makes men and women equal, except in some special cases when something becomes more suitable for men and inappropriate for women. The fact of equality, the origin of all humankind is the same and they came from a single man, yakni Adam. But Islam has made piety the only factor for preferring one man over another. The right guided caliph followed this method too. Allah says in the Surah Hujurat verse 13, "The most honor of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most righteous of you." From Hadith of Prophet Muhammad SAW, narrated by Ibn Hanbal, Volume 5, page 411, the only basis for preference between an Arab and non-Arab is piety. And the benefits of equality in the administration are: number 1, equality and diversity add new skills to teams. Number 2, diversity in the workplace promotes innovation. Number 3, diversity and inclusion opens business up to new markets. Number 4, valuing diversity improves your brand reputation. And number 5, diversity management opens up new talent. The third principle is commanding good and forbidding evil. Enjoining good and forbidding evil is one of the essential teachings of Islam. Everyone is obligated to acknowledge good and reject evil in their hearts. It is based upon three principles: knowledge, gentleness, and patience. And all of administrator must enjoin his staff, teacher, and students to what is good and forbid them from what is wrong. Allah says in Surah At-Tawbah verses 71, "The believers, men and women, are protected one of another. They enjoin what is just and forbid what is evil." And Hadith of Prophet Muhammad SAW, narrated by Tamim Ad-Dari from Muslim 1987, "Religion is advice." We ask, "From whom?" He replied, "For Allah, His Messenger, the leaders of the Muslim, and the common people." The next principle is managerial. It contains three items: number 1, empowerment; number 2, motivation and encouragement; and number 3, autonomy. The first principle is empowerment. The definition: delegation of authority or transfer responsibility from a higher authority to lower one. It includes trust, power, sharing information, and decision-making, responsibility, and accountability. Empowerment combines elements of information, knowledge, bonuses, and power. Abu Ruman 2016. Prophet Muhammad SAW was accustomed to delegating responsibility to his companions. He appointed Ali ibn Abi Talib to administer the affairs of Medina when he left Medina for battlefield. Ibn Khaldun said in Al-Muqaddimah that the delegation of authority is rational and necessary. No individual can execute all matters alone, especially leaders that carrying the huge burden. According to Al-Mawardi 1996, identify many qualities needed by those entrusted with responsibility. They are: possesses all the qualities of moral and ethical uprightness, must be experienced, judicious and reliable in regard to keeping secret, be scrupulous in carrying out duties and in dealing with others, and he must be knowledgeable about the duty he is entrusted with. Al-Mawardi 1996 emphasized the importance of empowerment in administration. The leaders cannot execute all matters alone, and the delegation of responsibility reduces possible error. In addition, the benefits of empowerment are: number one, it helps framework an employee's expectation and set goals to accomplish their main purpose of their work. Number two, it will enable the employee to take control of their job and use skills they never knew they could use. Number three, empowerment is key to having full motivation in a workplace. It can be described in a number of different ways. And number four, it allows us to give employees more responsibility and power, which can create value in an organization. The second principle under the managerial is motivation and encouragement. The definition: motivation is defined as a materialistic or moral power which stimulates an individual to work to the best of his ability. This process aims at motivating all diligence to work efficiently and encouraging others to imitate the diligence. The educational administrator is duty-bound towards good deeds and steady work through incentive. The main motive of motivation in Islam methodology is to get Allah's pleasure, His forgiveness, and entering His paradise, according to Surah An-Nahl, verses 67. The benefits of motivation in educational management are: first, motivation leads to the stability in the workforce. Number two, motivation builds confidence among staff. Number three, it improves work performance, secures their loyalty, and reduces absenteeism and labor turnover. And number four, it improves the image of the organization and consequently attract competent personnel in an organization. The third principle is autonomy. Autonomy in Islam means liberalization of man from any decisive influence or excessive restriction on his thoughts, creativity, and movement. Al-Qardawi, 1993. It is also a liberalization of man from evil influences. Man is free to live in accordance with the will of his creator without being restricted by the power of any other creature. Islam has defined all forms of autonomy which man is needed on his daily life. This right is protected by the divine laws. Each individual is responsible for what he chooses. Al-Quran says in Surah Mudathir verses 38, every soul will be held in pledge for its deeds. And the importance of autonomy. An employee that is allowed autonomy is self-motivated, inspired to achieve, and more likely to engage with work. The inevitable result is a boost in productivity. Self-aware, free-thinking employees are setting out to achieve professional goals their own way. It can increase an employee's sense of job satisfaction, motivation, creativity, and overall well-being.
Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. I am Mardia Hayati Abdul Rahman and I will continue to the topic organizational. This is level number 4 for principles of educational administrations. Under this level, there are several principles will be discussed. First, clarity and unity of objectives, planning, decision making, shura, mutual consultation, method of choosing advisors, nomination and selection of employees, and authority. We start with clarity and unity of objectives. The general objectives of being a Muslim and the planned objectives of any institution must be clear in the mind of the educational administrator, since without this, the attainability of the desired objectives is impossible. Allah said in Surah Yusuf verse 108, "Say thou, this is my way, I do invite unto Allah with a certain knowledge. I and whoever follows me. And also in Surah Ash-Shura verse 15, now then, for that reason, call them to the faith and stand steadfast as thou and commandant, nor follow thou their vain desires. These verses also relate to the sirah of Prophet Muhammad during immigration from Mecca to Medina. The purpose and objective of Prophet Muhammad is very clear: to unite Muslim and non-Muslim like Aus and Khazraj, Bani Nadir, Qaynuqa, and also Bani Qurayza. Secondly is planning. Planning is the process of deliberate searching for the best possible means to attain a particular objective in a particular period of time within the realm of possible circumstances, said Abdul Azim and also Abu Sin. Today the rate of change is formidable and the future is unpredictable. Therefore, careful thought and planning for every eventuality is a must for all educational institutions. Hence, intelligent planning, which provides a bridge between present problems and unpredicted future outcomes, is crucial. It is sufficient to note that planning is an essential activity for any institution so as to attain the objective of the educational institution. The planning process must consider available facilities, human resources, staff, and funds, and should ensure equality and harmony between these facilities. Allah the Almighty has persistently encouraged and directed Muslims to plan, work, and take into account future opportunities or problems by every conceivable means. Consequently, the surrounding and position of an educational institution must be assessed judiciously and intellectually. Complete understanding of the society, culture, and customs surrounding the institution is a prerequisite for any endeavor in planning. Next is decision making. Making appropriate decisions should consider: first, all decisions should be in accordance with the Sharia and must not incur disobedience to Allah or His Messenger. Second, a leader should study the circumstances of his subordinates and understand their needs before issuing any orders so that conflict or friction is minimized. Third, an administrator must not delegate his subordinate a task that is not within his field or specialization. Fourth, decisions should originate from an administrative council and not from a single individual to prevent the administration from making ill thought of decisions and errors, and will assist in getting the support of all staff once the decision needs to be implemented. And fifth, according to Islamic methodology, when a decision has been made, it should not be imposed in a bureaucratic manner, but rather should be executed in persuasive, respectful, and wise manner. Next is Shura, mutual consultation. The meaning of Shura is searching for appropriate advice and opinions from experts and examining them so as to reach the opinion closest to the truth. Thus, although the Messenger of Allah is infallible, since he received revelation, yet the Quran strongly urged him to consult the Ummah in decision making. Al-Mawardi 1994 said, the head of state, although he may be clear in making decisions and perfect in his intention, is barred from making immediate implementation of his decisions without prior consultation. It is also sanctioned by the practice of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Khulafa al-Rashidin. For example, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ consulted the companions when he intended to establish an army camp in the Battle of Badr. As far as the practice of Shura during the time of Khulafa al-Rashidin, it is worth mentioning that Abu Bakr had a consultative board consisting of a large number of highly esteemed companions. Then we move to method of choosing advisors. The Prophet differentiated between two types of advisors. First, one who directs towards noteworthy. Second, another who directs towards blameworthy conduct. Al-Mawardi 1983 has summarized them in 5 categories. First, the consultant should be knowledgeable, wise, open-minded, and experienced. Second, the consultant must be religious and fear to Allah, because this is the pillar of every reformation and success. Third, the consultant must be compassionate and conciliatory because compassion and advice promote thought and opinion. Fourth, the consultant must be psychologically fit to deliver advice. And fifth, the consultant should shy away from inclinations, subjective feelings, and desires, and must be adept in the issue about with which the person is to be consulted. Then we move to nomination and selection of employees. In the case of the school, selecting its employees is important because they will work towards achieving the great objectives of the school. The Prophet said, whoever charged a man with a duty towards a group of people and in the same time he can get a better and more virtuous man from that group has deceived Allah, the Prophet and the believers. Al-Hakim in Kitab Al-Ahkam 92-93. Ibn Taymiyyah said one of the views of Islamic methodology for selective staff completely denies a man leadership should he request it or contest for it. So the limits of the Islamic methodology of appointing staff may be summarized as follows. First, the administrator or leader should feel strongly that choosing appropriate staff is a great trust to be taken seriously. Second, the administrator or leader is duty bound to choose the best staff for each duty without inclinations, bias, or cheating. And third, the administrator or leader must display capability and amanah, trust. Lastly is authority. Authority, as regards the legitimacy of authority, the Holy Al-Quran clearly states that some individuals will have authority over others. He has raised you in ranks, some above others, that he may try you in the gifts he has given you. Surah Al-An'am, verses 165. And also in Surah Al-Nisa, verse 59, the Quran stressed on the need to obey those who are in charge of the affair of others. Allah said, O you have believed, obey Allah and obey the Messenger and those charges with authority among you. Jabnon 1994 states that authority in Islam is limited within the framework of the mission of Muslims and the interests of the organization. That's all.
Thank you, Sister Mardia. I'm Nurul Akmal Baharudin. Will continue under the topic organizational, where it includes 7 subtopics. First, loyalty to the leader and organization. Second, specialization and distribution of labor. Distribution of jobs among males and female workers. Centralization and decentralization. Training and enhancement of potential. Remuneration of employees, and policy of remuneration. We go to the first subtopic, loyalty to the leader and organization. The concept of loyalty to the leader and organization is manifested in the implement with the orders of the administrator. As greater or less disobedience will enhance and deepen the sense of the love to the institution. Obedience in Islam is a religious duty. As Prophet Muhammad SAW said, there is no obedience in unlawful matters, but rather obedience in what is lawful. Sahih Muslim, Kitab Al-Imarah, chapter 23, page 332. Second is specialization and distribution of labor, or we can say to allocate jobs among individuals. Our Prophet Muhammad SAW gave much attention to distribution of responsibility among his companions, as we can see this evident during his migration to Medina, how he assigned Abu Bakr the responsibility of making all traveling requirements available, assigned Abdullah bin Abu Bakr plans the enemies, and assigned Asma to providing them with this sustained. In school, as example, division of the administrative position applied by principal in school finance. Assign teacher as asset coordinator, as building coordinator, teacher as coordinator of movable asset and inventory, and as disposal coordinator. Third is distribution of jobs among male and female workers. Islam allows a woman from taking a job outside her home. The Quran has alluded to the participation of women in men's works. Nowadays,
The division of duties between male and female teachers is the same. Sometimes there are more tasks done by female teachers, for example, during the camping. Female teachers also set up tents, sentry at night, and manage electricity, which is usually done by male teachers. Fourth is centralization and decentralization. Principals will have the privilege of designing the general policy. The staff in turn will act according to their field as specialization and in accordance with general policy. It is imperative for principals to have confidence in the capability of their staff. Most important, they must train them to execute their responsibility independently without the need for direct supervision from higher authorities. Now we look at training and enhancement of potential. Principals should continually look for ways of improving the skills and capability. Staff also be properly educated and updated relevant with administrative skill. Through increased knowledge, management will be more organized and everyone will understand their duties and responsibility. Next is remuneration of employees. Rewarding good action is a fundamental principle in Islam because it helps to enhance activity and productivity in the institution. Therefore, principals should take care of these principles to achieve the satisfaction of individuals. And the last is policy of remuneration. Example in school where the ICT coordinator buy equipment for the installation of networking in the school compound. As a reward, the wage must be defined in advance. This because as an incentive to carry out the work and concentration and ensure that the teacher works according to a well-defined agreement. Second, wages without prejudice. This is the wage should be accurate to cover the needs of the teachers in charge, and the principal should give the payment after a job complete.
What is the role of principals as financial manager? The first point is the principal must facilitate, support, and assist the SGB in the execution of its statutory functions relating to the assets, liabilities, property, and other financial management issues. The second point, the finance of a school should be managed by a competent manager who is trustworthy and exhibits high integrity as stated in the Educational Act 1996. And the third point is the administration of a schools require an expert in both educational management and financial management of the school to fulfill the Education Development Plan MECC 2013-2025, which is to produce skills and professional administrators to realize profits to the country. Rules and regulations related comes from Akta Pendidikan 1996, Akta Acara Kewangan 1957, Akta 61, Peraturan Akaun dan Audit 1962, Surat Perkeliling Kewangan dan Arahan Perbendaharaan. Now we have to look the issues of principles breach of trust. I give an example from the issue of breach of trust among head teachers reported by the News Red Science paper in 2019 and 2021. Cause of principles criminal breach of trust (CBT) are followed. Number 1, untrustworthy due to no responsibility and breach of trust. Number 2, no responsibility, self-utilization of the budget for personal use. Number 3, no transparency in financial management. And number 4, lack of competency to be a good financial manager. So, trust-related problems contribute to the fragility of trust and frequently seems to pertain to relationships between principal and other administrators, staff members, parents, and students. So, what is the solutions? The first solution is amanah or responsibility. Administrator as a financial manager must using the power and authority in appropriate way. The administrator have responsibility in Islam that he is responsible before people in the life and before Allah in the hereafter. Regarding to Surah Al-Anfal verses 27, Allah says that He is always watched and observed by Allah and that all trust must be rendered back to one who entrusts them. Number 2 is adil, yakni justice. The administrator must be adil or justice in managing financial budget. This principle of justice is most important for financial manager or administrator because it enables him to deal fairly to all staff. Its importance shows from the Al-Quran. Be just. There is next to pity and fear Allah. Al-Ma'idah 5 verses 8. The third solution is competency. All administrators must have a competency of knowledge and experience as financial manager. The special training and assessment for financial literacy must be conducted and organized accordingly to enhance leadership skills and proper financial management in educational institutions. And number 4 is monitoring. Effective monitoring, evaluation and reviewing of school finance must be done to resolve the financial management challenges in schools, according to Kaguri, Jati and Tiani 2014. During monitoring, evaluation and auditing, school heads as an internal financial manager should ensure accountability and transparency of using school funds and preparing financial-based reports for remedial measures.
The issue pertaining to the allocation of financial resources in the educational institutions, mainly the school, that I would like to discuss is about corruption among the educational administrators. Principals and headmasters, PGB, as the highest authorities in the schools are accountable for their posts as the managers or head of departments of the schools respectively. They are critically exposed to the corruption temptations. Now, let's look at the definition of corruption. According to Syed and Bruce, corruption is the misuse of public power for private and personal benefit. They added, it reflects what is commonly meant by corruption. It places the emphasis on morality and has its roots in classical conceptions of corruption, which sought not too much to identify behavior, but to judge the overall political health of a society and its institutions. Koichiro Matsuura, the then Director General of UNESCO, remarked, widespread corruption not only costs societies billions of dollars, it also seriously undermines the vital effort to provide education for all. It prevents poorer parents from sending their children to school, robs schools and pupils of equipment, lowers teaching standards, and thus education standards generally, and compromises the future of our youth. We cannot let it go unchecked. He then added, the systematic use of public office for private benefit, whose impact is significant on the availability and quality of educational goods and services as a consequence on access, quality or equity in education. So from there, we can see that corruption in education sector diverts funds to other non-priority sectors, and it led to channelization of resources allocated for education for private sectors. These are the examples of corruption cases committed by the educational administrators. As for the first case, the headmaster of SK Tanah Rata in Cameron Highlands was charged with receiving cash from a person whom he knew had connection with official duties on 3 occasions. The offences under Section 165 of the Penal Code is punishable with a jail term of up to 2 years or fine or both upon conviction. For the second case, a headmaster from Rompin was sentenced to 3-month jail and fine Rm 20,000 by Session Court in Kuantan. He was found guilty to 2 charges that involved diverting school funds to a company owned by his wife. He committed the offence in 2014 while serving as a senior assistant co-curriculum teacher at SK Cherating. The charges were filed under Section 23 of MACC Act 2009, which is punishable with a maximum jail term of 20 years and a fine of 5 times the sum involved or Rm 10,000, whichever is higher. Besides the definition of corruption, of which involving giving and receiving monies or other materials that related to the personal benefits, bribery, as per what we have discussed earlier, other practices are also fall under the activities that can be considered as one's committing corruption. So principals and headmasters should not commit or tolerate corrupt practices in the education. Corruption practices at all levels could happen in education, whereby the officers and administrative personnel are protecting the wrongdoings of their staff by not taking actions. Such a culture of concealing mistakes for the sake of reputation has become a norm. For example, instead of actions being taken against the staff, the offender is merely being transferred to the other workplace. The most significant principles of educational administration is the Islamic educational administration, which derive from the basic Islamic sources, namely Quran and Sunnah. Talking about educational administrator qualities, it is actually concerned with a person or individuals and what characteristics one should have in order to be successful administrators. As per the previous discussion, Islamic educational administrator can be classified into 4 levels, which are personal trustworthiness, interpersonal relations, managerial, and organizational. Good quality of educational administrators should have the attributes that fall under these 4 levels. Moving back to how to curb or eradicate more practices of corruption. Since Islam condemns corruption in any form as a severe threat to the social, economic, and ecological balance, and reveals in detail the various Islamic dispositions and punishments meant to curb the endemic practices of corruption across the world. An educational administrator should believe that God is fully aware of his abilities and limitations and will not overburden him or subject him to duress or coercion. Not only does this fill a believer's heart with contentment and peace of mind, but it also inspires him to discharge his duties to the best of his ability. He is fully aware that any weakness he may experience is not because the task is excessive, but due to his shortcomings, and this in turn motivates him to strengthen his resolve and strive for excellence in his actions. Corruption can be tackled by moral education designed to inculcate believers a clear second-order preference for virtuous behavior, reinforced by legal structures and administrative system reflecting and supporting this stance. Equally important are the significant ethical and moral dimensions to reducing corruption, if only because there are situations where the external constraint confronting officials are weak and self-restraint is needed.
We continue to the next issue as school administrators choose the same supplier over and over again and against to financial procedures. Here is scenario 16. This situation sometimes happen at school and is known by all the teachers, but the teachers are unable to reprimand. I'm sure you can find the problems. Based on the current system, the principal as a school administrator is fully responsible for planning, managing, controlling, and determining the financial management in his school efficiently and effectively. The Accounts and Audit Regulations in the Education Act 1961 stipulate that principals keep school financial records regularly and that all school accounts for the current year must be submitted for audit before the following year. Here are some reasons why it happened. First, a low level of ethical awareness of the responsibilities given by superiors to responsible parties is a factor. The main occurrence of the problems of loss and distortion of financial procedures. Second, staff administration should be knowledgeable too in handling financial matters and situations. Third, disobedience of the party's school management related to Treasury Directive 60, which states clearly that all receipts must be issued official receipts for admit to receiving the money paid to the school. Fourth, the attitude of the administrator who is not enforced monitoring of money management in schools. We discussed about this topic previously and it all related each other. If the administrator follow the rule of Islam in organization, the management will be guided with true way and they will be obey to Allah, not betray. The negative effects, society will dispute the credibility and accountability of a teacher, create a sense of disrespect, distrust, and lack of confidence in the leadership in a school organization. The occurrence of a conflict between superiors and with subordinates, difficult to implement program school, and being a flaw in the management system financed at school. So, as suggestions for improvement, first, the procurement to be implemented must follow the procedure is make procurement planning, ensure there is provision, sufficient provision by checking subsidiary accounts, the duty of every officer who manage procurement do market research and get at least 3 price offers. Price offer of goods or service obtained must be reasonable after taking into account the quality, shipping cost, warranty period, after sales service, and etc. Direct purchases should not be focused on the same supplier, and all suppliers should be given equal opportunity and not vested interest to officers. Next, the payment voucher is the basic document to enable a payment is made. Payment voucher preparation procedure is as follows. First, it is provided after the bill or invoice is received in full. It should be prepared in 2 copies, the original voucher kept together with supporting documents, and copies both are sent to the recipient along with the check. Payment voucher worth less than 10,000 should be certified by 2 persons, where Peraku number 2 is school manager. If it is worth 10,000 and above, it must be certified by 3 given officers authority, including the school manager. Before approving the voucher, the school manager should ensure payment has not been made by checking register number. After payment is made, voucher and all document support must be stamped paid. Payment vouchers should be compiled and filed accordingly, serial number, sequence, and separated by currency. Next, KWT or Annual Financial Statement is part of the balance sheet item in school annual financial report. The KWT amount is the difference between income and annual expenses collected from the school start operating until December 31st of the current year. KWT remaining in deficit is a serious scenario because the amount of accumulated expenses exceeds the amount of income accumulated. This means not only annual income will not being able to cover the current year's expenses, but KWT, if it has a balance at the beginning of the year, is also not able to cover the expenses incurred. KWT has a deficit due to lack of planning procurement without provision, or no provision sufficient. Subsidiary accounts are not updated, and missing review or monitoring is carried out. Thank you.
I like to attract your attention regarding the issues uncertainty and lack of knowledge about school financial management among the principals. All the resources are from Unit of Account, Management Sector, JPN Pahang, and I keep my promise. I share this slide as a part of my assignment only. We focus on the first scenario which happened to a principal who working in the countryside near his village, who rarely came to school because of his personal affairs managing the farm, only held one financial meeting and left the rest of the financial management to the new clerk. The second scenario about lack of knowledge about financial management where the new principal did not collect the canteen rent and there was no proof of review from the principal, coupled with a new clerk who was also not well versed in finance. Then when the investigation is done, they get an audit warning. Here we can see the statistic of districts that received audit warning throughout 2020. Here is the example of recommended audit statement. And here is the school financial statement achievement statistics report school in Pahang in 2020. Which there was a slight increase from 175 to 179 schools getting an excellent audit rating. And this is a school financial management rating rubric according to a scale of 5 stars to the lowest 1 stars. And this is the school financial management evaluation form from ESPKWS system, or in Malay, Sistem Perakaunan Kumpulan Wang Sekolah. Brother and sister, why do you think there is an audit warning and audit report is not satisfactory? Here are a few reasons. First, there are principals who do not know how to manage school finance according to actual procedures. Second, payment vouchers or supporting documents are not complete. Checks are crossed for unauthorized purposes, and account payable is not recognized. Number 5, the payment to supplier before service perfected. Number 6. Official government receipts are not issued for receipt of public money. Number 7. The main financial document or payment voucher is not submitted for auditing purposes. And the last, leave financial management to the school club. And now we look at why principals need training and enhancements of potential about school finance. In line with the aspirations of the Planned Educational Development Malaysia PPPM 2013 until 2025, that is to create management financial efficiency and maximize returns every ringgit that's spent. And it also can give guidance which is useful in order the financial allocation channels used with efficient. Now we look at from Islamic perspective why principle needs training and enhancements of potential. Islam proposes training and development to enhance knowledge and skills of workers to increase levels. Methods from Islamic perspective can provide valuable insight to workplace practices while benefit organizations that in need to offer efficient and application training methods to the employee. The arrangement of the basic principles of Islamic training and development with includes to both faith and reason along with their practical which highlights, taking into the account curricular needs of the employees, will make training system in Islamic organization more relevant and meaningful. We can get knowledge of school financial through reading financial resources like buku tata cara pengurusan perakaunan kumpulan wang sekolah and refers to Surat Perkeliling Keuangan Bilangan 1 2021 and so on. As principle, of course, the knowledge of school financial management has been presented in NPKL course. Other than that, they can get from any school financial courses or discussion with school financial manager experts in JPN Audit Department. That's all from me. I will pass the floor to Brother Afsham. Welcome.
To conclude, it is noteworthy to mention that most principles of Islamic educational administration are different from those of the West because of their underlying basis, essence, and higher goals. Educational administration in Islam is largely shaped by its worldview. Islamic educational administration has its root in the belief of the Creator and accept its way of activity from the verses of the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The fundamental principles of educational administration in Islam are comprehensive in the sense that its scope spans the physical, social, spiritual, and material needs of human beings. Hence, an educational administrator's success in this world and the world to come lies in good enforcement of these principles. Educational administration in Islam is based on moral and ethical standards which are derived from the Quran and Sunnah. So, the implementation of these principles should be in line with the morals and ethics of Islam. The essential duties of educational administration in Islam is to supervise the teachers who are considered as the eminent individuals of the society. Besides, principles emphasize self-supervision and accountability according to which one supervises and judges himself and feels accountable for any shortcomings and work hard to overcome them in his capacity, without waiting for advice or direction from higher authority. Finally, these principles underscore the importance of collective administration through the principle of shura, mutual consultation, which is enjoined by Islam since it is practically effective.
Lastly, these are our references. By that, thank you.